TGH going into 4-3 there for a second. Alright, looks like they've started.
Alright, so the Celeste's game has 7 chapters and a prologue. Currently in the prologue, Madeline doesn't yet know that she can dash. Um, you'd think so, you'd be able to figure that out pretty early in your life if you had that power, but I guess not. So throughout the prologue, we're going to be jumping a lot. Jumping actually accelerates Madeline, which, like I said earlier, adds to your speed. So it saves, I believe, 2 frames per jump. So they're going to be jumping a lot. And then here at the end, this bird's going to caw at them. And she's like, oh, I don't have to die here. She dashes up.
Yeah, don't you know if you jump off a bridge in real life, then a mystical bird will come down and tell you you have
And
you have the
freeze time.
ability to defy physics.
It freezes time on its way down. And then it tells you. So moving right into chapter 1. It's the shortest chapter in the game. But once the dash is unlocked at the end of the prologue, the speedrun goes 0 to 100 real quick because you're going to see a lot of very fast movement throughout these screens, a lot of dashing along walls and dashing along the floor to maintain the dashes and be able to dash multiple times on the same screen. The speedrun normally uses in-game time because different PCs handle the game differently, and the in-game time is actually tied to your frame counter. So I believe YP's computer is a little on the weaker end, so his game might just run a little bit slower. So we'll keep an eye on the in-game time to see how he's doing.
Yep, thankfully the developers of this game actually coded their in-game timer properly, unlike a lot of other games where it's inaccurate.
Teej using a strat in that room before the spike jump, and then the spike jump here, nice. That strat in that previous room, the one YP is about to enter here, is actually a strat that we all got from YP, where we do a wall bounce on and then climb up the side of that. So, you know, YP is definitely a very like top tier runner that uses really good strats.
Yep, something to make note of is what YP did there just right now. He did something called a neutral wall jump. By not holding any directions when you wall kick, and then as soon as you leave the wall, by holding back towards the wall, you can actually climb the wall without taking any stamina away. And that allows you to do some pretty neat stuff in Chapter 1, but it also lets you do something pretty cool in Chapter 6 much later down the road.
Yeah, so here we have the first cutscene skip on TGH's side. It happened so fast we didn't even see it, but most cutscenes in this game, when they move Madeline across the screen for the cutscene, they actually only move her X position and not her Y position. So we're gonna see YP do it here maybe. Yep, he triggered the cutscene in at the roof of the room so that when the cutscene ended, he was actually inside the dream block and didn't have to jump again to get up into the dream block. Speaking of which, dream blocks, the unique mechanic of chapter 2 here, they allow you to dash. You dash into them and then you travel infinitely until you exit out the other side of them. And if the other side of them happens to be at a wall, you actually just kill Madeline. So you got to make sure to aim your dashes at an angle that you will not wind up in a wall.
Yep, don't crush yourself, that's bad.
Chapter 2 is also a pretty quick level. On average, it's less than 2 minutes for this level of runners. So these runners are just blazing through it right now.
Did we mention Battling?
Yeah, there's a evil manifestation of your negative feelings chasing you throughout this section here.
I know you didn't see her much because they're too fast, but yeah, the Battling is just like the Shadow Mario from Super Mario Galaxy. She spawns in 3 seconds after and then repeats every single action you've done. So the faster you go, the faster she goes. Kind of a scary prospect.
At the end of that segment there, Madeline actually wakes up and realizes she was dreaming that whole time, and then she's like, well, that was awkward, and just continues up her climb on the mountain.
It's not the weirdest thing she'll see on this mountain, and she'll be awake for the rest of that.
And if you actually let that cutscene rock for even a second, you see my favorite quote in the game. It's Madeline calling her mother, and her mother's just like, hello, question mark? Like, what do you want for my life? But the in-game timer actually does not stop during cutscenes in this game, so unfortunately the players are going to skip them as fast as possible.
Alright, we got the worst in the game, Celestial Resort. Anybody who likes this chapter, they're objectively wrong. That includes TGH. But yeah, this chapter is much more. It's much more. I'd say constricted space-wise. So you really have to be careful. There's also these annoying little red guys called dust bunnies. They are annoying. They're 100% cycle-based and they're always consistent, but that still doesn't mean they can't get the better of you. If you touch them, it's an insta-kill, like most enemies in this game.
There's also these tentacles on the walls and floor that just kill TGH here. If you touch them after moving off of them, they grow as dust monsters. So it makes it basically a one-way path if you're traveling along them.
Yep. Gotta flip these key switches here. But that's easy for TGH. He can probably do it with his eyes closed.
A lot of people dislike Chapter 3 because it gets much darker
because it's bad
compared to the other chapters. You can notice that on TGH's screen. There's kind of like a light around Madeline because the chapter is so dark. It's a very big contrast from the previous two chapters, and an even bigger contrast from the next chapter, as we'll see when we get there. So a lot of people don't like the dark gloominess, and the cycle-based stuff can be anti-fast if you're not used to them. So from a speedrunning perspective, learning this chapter can be a nightmare as well. So now the runners are entering this huge mess segment here. It's a three-way branching path. You have to do all the paths. The runners are going to do them in the order of south, north, east, because after each path you have to talk to Oshiro again, and you'll see that this south path leads you closest to his first spawn point here.
Yep.
So just makes it easier to get through the segments if you do them in this order.
So they will always do it in the order of chest, to the books, to the towels.
Yeah, and when you hit one of the switches at the end of the section, it removes all of that material from the entire huge mess checkpoint. So hitting this book switch here will remove all the books from the laundry section, essentially making the laundry section even harder. So, you know, if you're having trouble with a section casually, definitely try them in a different order and see if having more material around to land on and jump off of will help you.
I'm the opposite. I like as little material as possible, because then it actually feels like a level instead of a Terraria world. Anyway, Tej is going to be putting away the last of it, and he's just got to go and get his key now. Then he can head over to the elevator shaft.
YP's been having excellent, like, Chapter 3. He actually fell decently behind between like slower loading and the little bit of mistakes in Chapter 1, but he's like only like 4 screens behind Tej now. So definitely making good leeway. Nice corner boosting there.
You call it corner boosting, I call it cheating. If nobody explained corner boosting yet, it's basically if you dash at a corner, and then you hit jump and grab on the same frame that you touch the corner, you gain a lot of speed. It's frame perfect, but it also gets you a lot of speed. The TAS, the tool assisted speedrun, absolutely uses it literally everywhere, and it's fantastic. If you want to see a really great example of what kind of speed it can get you, just head over and look at the end of Chapter 2 in the tool assisted speedrun. So now Tej is going to be fighting the one and only Oshiro.
Yeah, so at the end of the hotel, you've told Oshiro for the 90th time that you have no intentions of staying at the hotel and that you just want to find a way out. And Battleline actually shows up, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought I was dreaming about you. Why are you here? And she actually tells Oshiro that his hotel is a dump, and she breaks the ceiling, and Oshiro doesn't like that. So Battleline, looking exactly like us, makes Oshiro take it out on us, and so now we're running for our dear lives.
Yep, make sure you always respect your hotel staff, or else we'll turn into giant demons and try to kill you. Oshiro charges at you, and it's pretty easy to dodge. Tej actually just finishing up the section right there. Holy moly. It's going too fast to talk about.
Yeah, he got the fast cycle on pretty much every screen, so that's pretty good.
Streamer, can you stop going so fast? I need to explain the run. Okay,
Oh,
YP
he saved it.
saves it.
And then with the crouch on the Roshiro,
Oof.
just to make sure. That could be the problem with cycle-based rooms. If you mess them up in a way that you're not familiar with, you'll have no idea where the cycle will be, and you just gotta stop and take it slow.
All right, we got TGH moving on Golden Ridge, and YP just hot on his heels.
If you were wondering if I was exaggerating about how bright Chapter 4 is, here you are.
Isn't it so beautiful? Look at all the purple.
Chapter 4 introduces wind, clouds, bubbles. Bad mechanic, you name it, it's here. TJ's making very quick work of the first checkpoint, though.
The best chapter in this game. Anything in a video game that's purple automatically makes it the best. Hey.
Might be having another slight stumble there, but getting through.
TG going for apparently some sort of newfangled strat that I haven't seen yet.
No, he didn't go for it.
Oh, he just goes for the normal one, okay. Nice auto-scroller skip from him. Let's watch what YP does.
So we didn't talk about the spike jump in chapter 1, but YP just did another one there. Basically, spike hitboxes in this game are pretty lenient. They are generally much smaller than they appear, and they also don't damage you if you're moving away from them. This is just like a failsafe that the developers put in. They wanted to make sure that the game felt fun, like you didn't feel like you were being cheated every time you went anywhere near a spike. So because of that, if the spike is like facing left and you're coming from behind it on the right, then you can essentially always be moving away from the spike and make the spike hitbox not exist. And that allows you to jump off the wall behind the spike, which is what the runners are doing.
This is also what allows you to pass through the back of spikes in certain later levels, so it is intended.
Almost everything in the game, I think, except for corner boosts and maybe like how ultras have evolved, wasn't developer intended. Like it was all found before the game launched and then left in. And some of the levels were even redesigned for the speedrunners to be able to use these new techniques that were being discovered in the run.
Yep. For instance, in Chapter 5 later, we'll see a very clear example of a developer-intended skip.
Siege wrapping up Golden Ridge there. 250 is pretty insane Golden Ridge time. This is probably the level that YP gained the most time on him at SGDQ, because this is known to be YP's favorite level to practice, but he's been having some hiccups, so I think
This is the best level in the game. Oh, I don't blame him. Speaking of which, we got Tej moving on to Chapter 5, the Mirror Temple. So we got these red orbs, which are basically just super versions of the blue orbs that we saw in Ridge. And Tej, oh my goodness, what? Nice. You're supposed to stop and let the platform go up a little bit there, but Tej said no to that and just did a reverse hyper across.
He was actually the only person that ever stopped on that platform. I'm
really?
happy that he finally stopped stopping. Yeah,
he did cutscene skip too. Oh my goodness. The monster.
But there was
gonna...
Who falls there? There's a trick in that cutscene at the start of the second checkpoint of Chapter 5, where if you are similar to Chapter 2, if you're at the top of the room, you can warp directly to the switch when the game moves Madeline for the cutscene. But at one point, that would actually sometimes put you in the wall, and you would actually have to retry the room to be able to exit the wall, because there's no way to escape. So I think they finally patched that out and fixed that for the Steam version. So now you can go for it without having to worry about having to retry. And yeah, YP doing the fastest strat there on that platform room. There is a way to do the fastest strat in that room and then still get the cycle skip in the next room, but that one is pixel perfect, so YP just went for the normal strat in the next room. And I think overall their strats wound up being about the same time.
Tej just killed Madeline, and now Madeline is in the unraveling section of Chapter 5, where everything is dark. It's scary.
So the Mirror Temple is a magical place on the Celeste Mountain, which is a magical mountain if you haven't figured that out yet. And the Mirror Temple is supposed to manifest itself as a reflection of your inner feelings or inner turmoil or something like that is my interpretation of it. Madeline's actually at the hotel with her good friend Theo, who she met on the mountain. And basically what we're seeing here in the unraveling section is both the players went, or YP's about to go through the magic mirror here at the top of the screen. And after going through the mirror, they wind up in the version of the temple that reflects their inner selves. It's up to debate what parts are reflecting Theo and what parts are reflecting Madeline.
I always took it that Theo is trapped in a crystal because he feels trapped or something.
Yeah, a lot of people say like all the eyeball stuff, all the eyeball related stuff is his like obsession with Instagram. Nice save there by TGH.
Oh, he was actually pixels away from kissing death there, but manages to prevail. Lord. TG now entering the second half of Unraveling, and he's going to do this nice developer-intended skip here. Normally there's about 4 minutes of puzzle solving, but nah, bye. We don't have time for that.
Yeah, by combining all the mechanics that we talked about earlier in the prologue in Chapter 1, you're able to get enough distance on your dash to jump over all those spikes. And as a result, you do not have to get the 2 keys that are in that room. They're designed as the casual way to get through it.
It's also worth noting on YP's screen right now that you the Seekers can actually flip switches for you, so having them move optimally is always nice.
Yeah, so Madeline on TG's screen here has found Theo, and like Shay said, he's trapped in a crystal. All these eyeballs in the walls and stuff is what a lot of people say is Theo, was what being reflective of Theo, because he's obsessed with Instagram basically, or Instapics as it's called in the game. And like is always trying to take selfies and get followers and stuff, so all eyes on him are literally now. He actually got trapped in the mirror trying to take a selfie in front of one of the mirrors. That's what happened. So
Dude's using that little platform to just get a nice little speed boost and cheese his way through this next room.
yeah, that's part of like what we were talking about earlier, how movement speed is uncapped in this game, and if you can use the momentum from blocks or the mechanics of the levels themselves to accelerate, then you can actually gain more momentum than just dashing normally.
It's also worth noting that you can't actually dash while you're holding Theo. You have to, basically, the way you move around with him the default way is just to throw him and then hyper dash, jump, and then regrab.
Yeah, luckily Theo maintains your momentum when you grab him, so throwing him and then dashing into him to pick him up is a good way to move through the screen pretty quickly.
TG entering Chapter 6 now. We got our introduction to a cool little power-up, the Feather.
You say cool, I say remove it from the game, please.
I think it's great.
TG's gonna go for a skip here on his side relatively shortly. This is called Lake Skip. It's a 3-pixel window and gets it first try. Very nice. It's actually pretty consistent, like everything in Celeste, because there's absolutely 0 RNG in this game. There's not a single thing in this game that's random. Because of that, every strat is pretty consistent. It just depends like how much you want to practice it, based on like how much time it saves you. So that's why I think that's part of the reason why the game is being so well received by the speedrun community and has so many active runners on speedrun.com. It's mainly because like you can pick and choose what to do and then practice it and make it. You don't have to worry about like bad boss RNG or bad enemy patterns or anything like that. You just...
It was designed from the ground up for this kind of stuff. And thankfully, with that in mind, there's no RNG. Unlike, you know, other very popular speed games, they still do have RNG. I mean, do you have a really good run that dies to not getting the hover to Ganon? Oops. Do you have an absolutely amazing run that just dies to not getting enough hands on Toriel? Oops. But anyway, TG now progressing through Chapter 6. We got these great mechanics. Ben Teezy's favorite, the pinball bumpers. I know how much you love them.
I actually don't mind them as much outside of the core. It's only
What
in the
has
core
happened to you?
that
I
they
thought
are
I knew
really
you.
toxic. YP getting his legs hit, so that's not actually a trick that was kind of new to him at SGDQ and gave him a little bit of trouble. But T just almost a checkpoint and a half ahead of him now, so kind of pulling away a little bit here. He's gonna need some mistakes on TGH's end for him to catch up.
There seems to be a pattern with the Celeste community and certain skips where it seems like it's the most impossible thing ever. Nobody will ever go for it in a run. Then somebody goes for it in a run and realizes, wait, this actually isn't that hard. And then they just move on to the next thing.
Well, leg skip in particular was made easier by the patch.
By a patch, yeah. There was a
So-
patch for this game that made it easier to wall bounce.
Yeah.
Because
It used to be a 1 pixel window. Like there was only 1 pixel on the entire wall that you could both
I think the
bounce off the
reasoning-
wall and not die.
the reasoning behind it was that wall bouncing is required in some of the later levels.
Yeah, they
So they
wanted
didn't
to
want it
make
to be-
wall bouncing a little bit more lenient for people on their casual playthroughs, specifically for some of the B-sides and C-sides.
Of course, when they announced
they're
the patch,
required.
there was obviously people going to complain about it, but I think they're wrong because more consistency is always good. Anyway,
I think the game is hard enough. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be pixel perfect anywhere.
TGH is going to take Kevin here, and he's just going to do a really nifty dash off of him, just fly into the next room, right into the battle and fight. For those of you who are subscribed to TGH on Twitch, there's a certain emote that you might want to put in the chat right about now. Not gonna name any names.
There's a battle line at the end of chapter 6. She's tired of you. She knocked you off the mountain. She's trying to reiterate to you that you're not a mountain climber. She's basically all the negativity inside of Madeline, like pent up and exploding out of her. And Madeline's like, no, we're gonna deal with this right now. You're not gonna stop me anymore. And so, how do you always deal with your feelings in real life? Well, you run into them with your face. So Madeline doing just that. You can't proceed to the next screen until Madeline breaks the wall to get through, so you have to hit her at every position she's at. There's no skipping cycles for that. TGH is making pretty quick work of this fight though. This fight is like pretty much the climax of the game. There's a lot of emotions going into this battle. It's very, very memorable and very fun casually. If you haven't played the game yet, I definitely highly recommend it just for this segment alone. It's definitely very well designed, both gameplay wise and thematically.
You can definitely tell it's supposed to be a big final fight because the background turns into the Final Fantasy IV final boss battle in the background.
You would think with all the Final Fantasy IV animes I've been doing lately that I would recognize that, but I don't even notice that. Oh, it is! I've never noticed that before you mentioned it just now.
I'm not complaining, I love that. I love it, it's so good looking. Anyway, TG is just beating battle in at record pace here, just breakneck speed. Battling can't even land a hit on him. This is just... yikes.
Yeah, I expect both players to have a deathless battle line.
You had to, you said it, and now it's not gonna happen.
I'm not even gonna take responsibility for that. I'm not gonna do it. He
TJ
sabotaged
entering
me.
the
He
final
sabotaged me.
room of battle in here, where you have to just take these feathers and go through a pretty long hallway while dodging these lasers. Grace and style. Most importantly, a funny face. And that is going to be the end of the battle and fight. TG now just has to go talk to her, and now we level up. And now we got 2 dashes and pink hair.
There's another life lesson for you guys out there. When you face your feelings and learn to accept them, you level up IRL. And this one's actually true IRL.
Except, you know, I wish that my level ups let me defy physics. That'd be cool.
Well, I wasn't talking about that part. I didn't mention that. You mentioned that.
And TG getting, I actually can't see the timer. What is that?
It's a 551.
Oof, that's really good.
For reference, like, I think that's like 2 or 3 seconds off the world record for the level itself. So that's an insane chapter 6.
That it is. Anyway, TG is going to be making his way to the finale of the game, the last chapter, Summit. And in Summit, it's basically just a retread through the 5 original chapters and then one final little platforming chest at the end. But this time, you've got 2 dashes. Summit is bar none the longest chapter in the game. It is about 9 minutes for TGH on average, and you know he just beat Reflection in less than 6, so it's nearly double the length of the previous longest chapter.
It's more than 25% of the entire run, just like this one level. So it's definitely great music. Sit back and enjoy it. A lot of tech, especially with the 2 dashes.
YP making his way through Battlin's final corridor.
Teaching the first checkpoint of Summit. It's called 500 meters. Basically, they instead of saying chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, they just say 500 meters, 1,000 meters, because you're essentially reclimbing the entire mountain.
Reclimbing the entire Madeline.
The memes have gotten to me.
This is a game where you play as Celeste and you climb Madeline. Now we got YP finishing up his chapter 6. And done for him. Let's see what he got. My eyes are failing me. Ben, what is that?
6:19.
Okay.
So about 28 seconds behind. Chapter 6 is a pretty big hurdle. Like, I would say it's probably the second most important chapter to practice a lot after Summit. So here we had the dream blocks from chapter 2 and 1,000 meters.
Yeah, now that you have 2 dashes, you can actually hyper dash out of the dream blocks and have a dash. So it lets you go even faster. You'll see Teach doing that a lot. The reason you could theoretically have done this in chapter 2, but it'd leave you without a dash. So
yeah, hyper dashing is dash plus jump, so and crouch. So if you did it out of a dream block in chapter 2 when you only had 1 dash, you would be dashless and not be able to dash into the next dream block, which is usually slower.
Alright, Tej entering the chapter 3 section of Summit. This right here I consider to be the hardest, probably the hardest part of this game.
Oh, that was a nice save by YP. He triggered the block by grabbing it, and so he almost didn't make it up in time to get the jump, but he actually did a reverse hyper to get up from the other side, because he didn't have time to get to the other side of the block to clear the jump.
Yep.
And Tej going through a room with the most obvious use of ultra dashes.
Rankers.
An ultra dash is just a hyper dash canceled into another hyper dash, and for some reason that down forward dash doesn't redo or restart Madeline's momentum, so it just adds to it. That allows you to gain a lot of speed if you're going down forward.
Tej managing to get through the chapter 3 section with ease. He dodges the nefarious clutches of Bob, not taking a death. And he's actually going to go up top here to the secret path because it's actually faster and saves the screen. And it gets you a strawberry. That's the most important part.
Who's Bob?
The dust bunny on the right, moving up and down. This room sucks.
When did you see his ID? So this is the return of snowballs from chapter 4.
Yeah.
It's a much longer room, so it's very time consuming to die in that room. Skipping another auto scroller here. There's only one auto scroller I believe that we wait for in the whole game at TGH's level of play. And it was the second one in chapter 4. He's gonna skip this one too here at the end.
Not the whole thing, but he is gonna skip a little bit of waiting by doing 2 wall bounces there. Continuing up. Just gonna make effortlessly going through this room with the wind. This room here can be just a little scary, but Tej is gonna make it through.
Pay attention to YP screen here to see if he does the ultras as well. Yep.
Does have to retry. And it's
YP just doesn't want me to call attention to his screen at all, is what it is. He wants me to focus on Tej.
It is a thing that is real.
I'm trying to be unbiased, And every time I'm like, yo, look at YP. Dead.
And
I'm
YP about
sorry,
to enter the
YP.
most important room, Franker Z. I say that because
Doesn't
of his
mean
dust bunnies.
anything.
They look like a dog. It actually took me until like I was commentating for another race in the tournament, and that's what was I literally
If
saw
it
it for the
took you
first
that
time.
long, it's not that.
Oh no, YP
Yes.
taking a death to Bob's brother. Unfortunate.
TGH gonna do some neutral wall jumps here past the spikes. There's actually just enough space on those walls to jump off of them. He's not actually doing his spike jumps there, since you're not moving away from the walls. You actually don't press any directions at all for that trick.
And TGH is coming up to one of the most important skips in the entire game that saved a gargantuan amount of time, a whole second and a half. This is door skip. And of course he is going to go for it. And he nails it easily. God Gamer himself gets door skip. In all seriousness, the door skip is just kind of a meme because, I don't know, there was a long argument about whether it should be used in a run for a while, if it was too risky to go for, and then it just became a thing. I don't understand.
It wasn't really an argument. It was actually these two runners on screen right now that were adamantly against it. And
Yeah.
everybody else saying, yeah, you should do it. It's easy. And they were like, no, you guys have
And
never
then-
been on world record pace. There's
And
no
then
way to
Teach
go
does
for
it
that.
in a world record, and it's
And then they sucked it up and started doing it.
they got
realized
good.
They were wrong.
Look, you either die with a lot of swag or live long enough to see yourself doing the safe strats.
So I'm not actually going to commentate anything TGH is doing. I'm actually going to just watch it on the actual stream because I can see it there. And I want to see the win.
What?
It's too blurry on my screen on the commentary stream here for me.
Yeah, wind, the downdraft sort of obliterates
Wind in general
encoders.
messes with, yeah, the frame rate of the
So touching
stream.
that purple orb there is actually going to turn the downdraft into an updraft, and now you're in low gravity. So somehow they managed to get low grav in this game, in a game that's on Earth on a mountain. Okay.
Yeah, updraft is just a Mega Man water level. That's all it is. It's a Mega Man water level in disguise, and I hate it. Because I hate all water levels on principle.
I always thought the Mega Man water levels were okay because they don't slow you down.
YP going for the key skip here if you didn't catch it on TGH's stream. Nice skip to first try. I'm glad he didn't die again because I said his name. If these
And,
guys ever rematch at a GDQ, I'm not allowed to be on the couch.
Nope. Teach just gliding through Summit right now. He's determined. And now YP is coming up the door skip. He's gonna go for it as well. Oh, and unfortunately takes a death. But he's going for it again. And gets it easily. First try.
So this is very close to being world record pace for TGH. It's gonna be within 3 to 4 seconds. Either way, like he can get it or not get it.
If he gets world record in a marathon, I'm done with him.
Yeah, he usually doesn't make many mistakes on these last segments here
Why did you say anything?
because I can.
If he dies on flag 1 now because you said that.
3, 2, 1. So no, unfortunately not world record.
Not world record, but he is going to get it by 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's
That is a
insane.
30-38 from him, which is just, I mean, that is actually disgusting.
That is bananas. That is
It's
a minute
absolutely-
and like 10 seconds faster than YP's personal best. Like,
yeah, that's just bullying at this point.
yeah,
goodness.
GG's to TGH. Really showing that he's not slowing down after the GDQ race and the constant world records. He's like constantly practicing and looking to improve, and he's gonna make sure that if anybody in the top 5 is trying to challenge him, they have a bit of a mountain to climb if they're trying to win the tournament.
YP skipping the checkpoint. Very, very risky thing for him.
He like almost ran out of stamina like 4 times on that segment. I was like holding my breath.
Remember, you can't say his name, otherwise he'll die.
I'm actually just looking away from the stream right now. Like, come on, YP, just finish. Oh, I said his name. He died on the stream. He had already died on our end, but he died on the stream when I said his name. It's like no matter where I'm looking.
Ooh, YP unfortunately taking a death going for a skip here. It's actually possible to just jump around that spike because of the way down, the way updraft works.
If you're looking for a style to emulate, if you're gonna pick up this game, TGH has a style where he learns rooms like from start to finish, basically, and he never improvises the rooms. And because there's no RNG in this game, that kind of style of play really helps. If you don't make mistakes in the later parts of the rooms, you almost don't lose any time in your run. The most time lost, because you're always spawned at a checkpoint, usually at the start of a room, is the most time lost is getting to the end of the room and then dying. If you die at the beginning of the room and then still execute your strategy as normal, you pretty much don't lose any time, which is why we see that even though TGH had 5 unintentional deaths this run, he was only 5 seconds off the world record, because those deaths are not costing him time because he doesn't die at the end of the screens. So definitely a good strat to emulate if you're looking to play this game. And here we have YP finally on check flag 1. Definitely a respectable run nonetheless.
Oh,
took a little bit of a
YP.
pause there.
What?
Is this controller not working?
I think it's because you said his name.
I thought his
And
like
that's
jump
YP.
button broke. Like he's
Finishing
not
up his
jumping.
run.
34 flat, I think it was.
Yeah, 34.